challenge was brought by Mr. Gibson, and so that's the sole purpose of this meeting. So I'll now ask that the meeting be called to order. Is there a motion? Call the meeting to order. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The meeting is therefore called to order. The way the procedure will go is that we will, since Mr. Gibson presented the challenge in a timely fashion, we will allow him to present evidence supporting his arguments. And at that time, Mr. Tillman, if he so wishes, may ask him questions, as may the board. And then it'll be Mr. Tillman's turn to present his evidence. And likewise, Mr. Gibson will have an opportunity to ask him questions if he so desires, as will the board. After that, each man will give a closing argument, if you will, or a summation, and the board will deliberate and vote. So that will do that. So, Mr. Gibson, I haven't met you. Thank you. How are you? Nice to meet you. Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
First, I would like to ask a question of the board for clarification. As you see, I'm by myself. I don't need an attorney. I represent the people. At this time, I'm a standing elector, and I speak the truth. But and I think Mr. Tillman has an attorney. Now, if I am going to be denied by the attorney to speak, and I'm going to stick to the facts, then I would like to ask the board to continue this, and I would bring me an attorney. Is there going to be anything that an attorney can say in this meeting that I can't say? In other words, this is not a court session.
That's correct. And you can have an attorney, but you don't need an attorney.
I don't need one.
And that's not going to stop you from being able to say your piece.
Thank you, sir. Okay, well, first I will just read my letter. It would kind of summarize a part of the complaint, but then I will add to it that I sent on August 6th. It says, I am Councilman Henry Gibson, an elector in Macon-Beard County Commission District. I am challenging the candidacy of Senator Tillman for Macon-Beard County Commission in District 9, Official Court, Georgia 21-2-6, paragraph B. The challenge is based on the fact that House Bill 1171 allows candidates to move to a different district and run for office. However, the House bill does not eliminate the requirement that a candidate's residence is established when he or she claims homestead exemption. The rules for determining residency, official code of Georgia 21-2-217, paragraph 14, specifically state that when a person has homestead exemption, that address shall be deemed that person's residence. Official Code of Georgia, subsection 15, specifically for the purpose of voter registration and canvassing, homestead exemption is where a person resides. Mr. Tillman has declared homestead exemption as validated by Macon-Beard County Board of Tax Assessors document included in my package here, where he, his wife, and 2 children have declared residence. Other data in section 15, paragraph B, can be considered, although it is unnecessary in my estimate. Mr. Tillman clearly does not meet the Constitution and statutory qualifications for candidate in District 9. This challenge does not and should not have any implication for the district of his residence which is District 8. His candidacy not only violates the letter of the law, it violates the spirit of the law. He has financial, moral, ethical responsibility to represent those citizens he would represent in District 9 if he's elected. But can't effectively do so if he has those financial, moral, ethical obligations to himself, his wife, and his children in District 8. First, I would like to say, I was in the hospital at the time that, Colonel Leon Jones brought me a paper. And when I read that, well, Mr. Tillman had told me 3-4 months ago that when Mr. Pete was waiting on his decision pertaining to the Voters Act, he said, if they open it back up, I'm gonna run. And this 3-4 months ago. I had already looked at the map, and I didn't give him a rebuttal, but I was wondering if he knew that he lived in District 8. So I started doing checking then. I first went to Mr. Tillman because he's very knowledgeable. He bought maps and went over it with us, and he said Al Tillman lives in District 9. But when I read in the paper that Al Tillman had denounced his family life just to run for office, I was devastated. I have served this community for the last 50 years, I would say. I'm 68 years old. I served through the National Guard, 17 years with 48th Brigade and my active military time, 35 years with the police department. I don't know how to do anything but follow the law to the letter, follow the rules. I'm not perfect, but I certainly will not do anything maliciously or intentionally to infringe on the laws of the land that has been written. I don't question the law. The law is the law. I have much respect for the judges, the legislators. I don't like all of the laws. I don't like the tax law. But I suffer to pay my taxes the best that I can. Might not be on time, but I get paid. I'm retired. But there are several things about this. This is not your ordinary disagreement. Mr. Tillman has wanted to be a politician for a long time. He ran against the same man that I beat a long time ago, and he lost. Al Tillman said that he was my friend. I have a son old as Al. I'm 68 years old. I don't befriend young people in that manner. We have acquaintances, it's not that I don't like young people. It's just that I stay a distance because I reach out and try to help young people. And I have reached out with Al. He and I sat at the Burger King for hours when I first was elected. But that was the strangest thing. I've been living at my address over 30 years. I've been in Macon all my life until I was elected as a politician. Al Tillman never even talked to me as far as befriending me. But right after I was elected, Al Tillman began to call me, And that was strange. And being a police officer, I'm paranoid of that. Uh, the, the fact that he said that he was going to just run in District 9, and the reason that he put in the paper was that it was too crowded in District 8. But my question is, if everybody wanted to find them another district to run in for a reason as minute as that, the Board of Election really would be out of control. Mr. Tillman, I stepped down, and I had no intention of getting out of politics. But a person who denounces their family life just to run has a problem. I stepped down and got behind Mr. Tillman because he and I have been friends over 50 years. We both live in District 9. But the fact is that when the law says that the line is drawn here, they didn't give no variance. Where the line is drawn, that's it. You can go to West Oak. You have houses on this street that is serviced by Bibb County Sheriff. On the next street, by the major police department. I can carry you to George Hill Road. There are no variance given. But I see that there is a difference when you get to section C6, and this is a glitch, but I don't think it meant that just because I don't want to run against my friend, I can pick me another district to run in. Something is wrong with that. Out of all of the, I've lived in Macon all my life, I've never seen so many people run in an election in the city of Macon. Al Tillman is the only candidate that come up and gonna circumvent the law that's in place and invent his own rule. My constituents, the reason that I'm here, they knocking my door down. They calling me on the phone, said, how are you gonna let this happen? You said you were gonna be a voice for the people. So I had to do something. I had a constituent, I'm not a computer person, to bring me this information here. Mr. Tillman have a little respect for the law. He has been fined $125 for failing to file his financial disclosure. Knowing Mr. Tillman, I don't think he did that on purpose. When you file a financial disclosure, everybody knows who gave you money. I'm not a mind reader, but I'm just not going to sit back and just let Mr. Tillman pull out and throw his bag of tricks around to run in District 9, then run back to District 8 and live after it's over with. I live in District 9. I serve this community with integrity, honesty, and dedication, and that's the reason I'm here. If you're going to say that you have left your wife, you got to be honest about it. But not dragging Mr. Tillman's family, and he did that when he said that he was leaving home. And I looked in the section here, uh, where it says, in section B, 21-2-217, rules for determining residence. It says, in determining a voter's qualification to register and vote, the registrar, who is the vote of election, to whom such application is made shall consider, in addition to the applicant's express intent, any relevant circumstance determining the applicant's residence. The registrar, taking such registration, may consider the applicant's financial independence, business pursuit, employment, income source, residence for income tax purpose, marital status, resident of parents, spouse, and children. If any leasehold sites or personal and real property owned by the applicant, register may reasonably deem necessary to determine the qualification of an applicant to vote in a primary or election. The decision of the registrar to whom such application is made shall be presumed evidence of a person's residence for voting purposes. So I was advised by an attorney, and I asked the attorney to give me some questions from this section that the board could ask Mr. Tillman. I can't make you ask. I'll just have to read this section here. I feel it's necessary. But my son is 41. Mr. Tillman is about 43. But I've known him for a long time, since he was in his 20s. And, you know, after he grew into the man stage, he always attached himself to politics. He wants to be a politician. I want him to be a politician. But you can't invent your own rules, especially if you're gonna do it in District 9. I would not have it. I don't know whether it would take a Superior Court judge and board or who, but if you're gonna do an amendment to make it the law where I can go and pick me another district to run in, I'm gonna have to get an injunction. I'm here for a long haul. I'm representing the people. And I'm gonna do my best to make sure that the people are represented properly. And what Mr. Tillman has done, his action, being fined, not turning in a financial disclosure, and I know that he's being untrue when he said he left his wife. I know that he's being untrue. That's why one of the questions on there is pertinent to ask, are you divorced? Or are you divorced? He brought that in there when he said that he was moving out.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Do you think the fact that, or whether or not he's living with his wife or divorced has anything to do with him being qualified to run in District 8?
I think that to the letter of the law, he brought that up about him living with his wife or not. He said that he was not living. The homestead exemption is what I'm talking about. He claimed homestead exemption where his wife lived, and that's where his residence is. That's the problem. It doesn't have anything to do with whether he's married or not, he don't have to be with his wife. I mean, he could be divorced or whatever, but you need to be honest about it. So why leave home? But the problem is that whether or not this type of mockery is gonna be allowed by the Board of Elections. If so, let everybody do it. I want to be able to run in another district. If Mr. Tillman can do it, you can't just do it for Mr. Tillman. You have to do it, make it available for everyone. I'm a heavy taxpayer in this county. So if Mr. Tillman is allowed to say, I don't wanna run in District 8 because there's too many people running in District 8. What's the difference between that and me saying, I don't wanna run in District 9 because my friend of 50 years, I would have to run against him. Same thing. That's it's a fact that if you're setting a precedent, if you're gonna set a precedent, set it. But you're gonna have to set it for everyone. That's all for now.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Are there any questions from Mr. Tillman, from Mr. Gibson?
I'm going to ask some questions on his behalf.
All right.
My name is Randall Harrison. I'm the attorney representing Mr. Tillman.
Can I say something? This is what I was talking about. If I'm gonna be questioned by an attorney, I wanna stop the hearing and get me an attorney. This is Mr. Tillman. I didn't know that I needed to bring an attorney.
Can I make a statement? You don't have to have an attorney, but either one of you all had the right to have.
I didn't know that.
He was advised in the letter, was he not?
Yeah, I assume it was just right. See, it's not a requirement that you have to have it, but if a person is represented by an attorney, we must allow, we can't deny, Mr. Tillman from having an attorney.
Okay.
Let me say this too. The attorney is not gonna have any effect
No.
on our decision. Our decision is gonna be based on the law.
On the law, right.
I mean, I know Mr. Harris, he's a good man, but to us, it's not gonna carry any more weight than if it was Mr. Tillman. And I can assure you that on my part, and I think for the rest of the board.
Yeah, it's not. We got to base it on basically what we have.
We've got the law, and that's what we're based it on.
Generally, when I'm questioned by a lawyer, I have a backup, a DA, attorney. You know, that's a mind at work of a lawyer. So, I don't know what questions he gonna ask. I don't feel comfortable with it. I'm not an attorney. You know, and I'm.
And it's your right if you don't want to answer. I mean, we can't stop him from asking, and we can't make you answer.
Okay.
So that's the bottom line. You don't have to.
We're gonna go by the law.
Right. So you don't have to answer. See, but we must do this. You know, I know what you're saying. We put it off, but by law we have to do it in a timely fashion because of the whole procedure and everything.
Mr. Gibson, my name's Randall Harrison.
Yes.
I'm sure I've met you before.
Yes.
What was furnished to you? You said that you got some information from the tax assessor or the tax office, I'm not sure which one it was, concerning the homestead exemption that you say was claimed by Mr. Tillman. What is it that you actually had? I didn't know.
It just gives Macon County Board of Assessors
Okay, so that's the information you got off the website of the tax assessor's office, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, are you familiar with homestead laws, Mr. Gibson?
Some, very little.
But are you aware of the fact that they are effective as of January 1st of each tax year?
Yes.
Okay. And I think you probably, have you bought and sold property over the years?
Yes.
Have you ever had more than one residence that you've lived in? Or have you lived
You're
in-
asking me too many personal questions, sir. I mean, I don't, you know, you can go ahead and say what you gotta say. I'm not being ugly, but the fact is Mr. Tillman, I understand the window of,
Of Senate Bill 25, is that what you're referring to, the window?
I understand I understand that, but, my problem is the fact is that Mr. Tillman is being dishonest about where his address is. And if he was honest about it, it would be in District 8. And, you know, you can go around about it any kind of way you wanna go, but that's the fact. The fact is that Mr. Tillman lives in District 8. You know, jumping up, renting an apartment, and the only thing about it, if that's the way you wanna do it, the board wanna do it. Only thing I'm saying, let's do it. But then, me and other people should have the same privilege. Let's don't argue about it.
All right, so answer my question now, if you would. As far, have you ever moved your
I don't
residence?
wanna answer
Okay.
questions about myself.
But you do understand that
I understand.
Senate, well, hold it, let me ask my question. You do understand that Senate Bill 25 does say that for the purposes of candidacy, he must only be a resident of the commissioner district on the day of qualifying. You do agree with that, don't you? That that's the law?
I remember Danny Glover, when he was chosen to run against Elaine Luper, he did that and he got away with it, but Danny Glover didn't own anything. He didn't have no property, he hadn't claimed homestead exemption. The homestead exemption is what put the glitch in it.
Okay, so
So
you're basing it
with
totally
me.
on the homestead exemption, nothing else?
Well, and the fact that I feel strongly amongst some other things that I can't bring out, but I feel strongly that Mr. Tillman just flat out lied when he said that he didn't live at that address no more. He said it. Said he didn't live there over there no more. That was in the paper. That's my problem.
Okay.
If he would have based it and left that out, you can't be dishonest to the people.
Well, let me ask you this, you don't have a problem with the candidate living in an apartment, do you?
Sir, now you're making me seem stupid. That's not the issue.
Well,
The
no,
issue is that
Well,
he lived at 25, I think 72, whatever it is, 2572 Robin Hood Road. And for the purpose of running in District 9, the only excuse that he gave to move to run in District 9, it was too crowded. And he's gonna rent him an apartment. Only thing I'm saying, if that is gonna be the law, so be it. So then, we'll go to Superior Court and get an injunction to open it back up so I can run in another district, others. Because that's what will happen.
but don't you have to live in the district where you run? Isn't that the law?
I rent an apartment in another district, just like Pat Tillman did. That's what I just said. That's no problem.
Okay.
I want the chance to do that, because when I read, I went by the law.
Okay.
I didn't try to manufacture the law, circumvent the law, or whatever.
Do you have any evidence to present?
Don't ask me those questions, sir. I presented all my evidence.
Okay, and I saw nothing. And
Well,
if you
they
would-
have everything that I feel I need.
Well, let me ask the question at
Uh-huh.
least. Would you point out to me anything that you have that shows that he applied for or that he was claiming a homestead exemption after June the 7th in the property?
So if you're gonna go into that, then that's when I'm gonna ask them to let me get my lawyer so you and him can talk.
Well,
They'll bring him to talk to you for that.
and you did talk to your attorney and before you got here and had
No,
him
I
prepare
talked to
questions.
a attorney about this, about these questions.
Okay, that's fine. I have nothing else. Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
Any further questions for Mr. Gibson from the board? All right, Mr. Tillman, it's your turn.
Ask you some questions. Tillman, if you raise your right hand, you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give before this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
If you would, if you'd state your name for the record and also what your permanent residence address is.
My name is Al Tillman. My permanent residence is 5341 Bloomfield Road, apartment K, Maconville.
Now, Mr. Tillman, did you change your permanent residence address since January the 1st of 2013? And if so, state what your former address was and when you changed your residence address and what was the purpose of this change of your address?
Yes, I did change my address. I began this process, changing my address on June 7th. My previous address was at 2572 Rockwood Road. And so I did intentionally change my permanent residence to my address for the purpose of establishing residency so I could run in District 9.
Okay. And how long have you been a resident of Bibb County, Georgia?
I've been a resident, born and raised here all of my life.
Now, with respect to your current address and the proximity to your former address, please explain that and what your intention was in changing your residence address.
My former residence was 2572 Robin Hood Road, which is approximately in walking distance from 5341 Bloomfield Road.
Is that a copy of the tax map?
This is the tax map, and in yellow was my previous address at 2572 Robin Hood Road. It is a short distance to 5341 Bloomfield Road, apartment K. And I intentionally moved there and made that my permanent residence.
Okay, and is it within walking and sight?
Yes, sir, it is. It's in walking distance. And if you stand in the street on Robin Hood Road, you can actually see the apartment.
Now, what ties do you have to the community where your current permanent residence address is located?
Well, not only do I live in the district at my permanent residence, I do business in the district. My hair is cut in the district. I shop in the district. My office is in the district. And that's my permanent residence.
And what did you do to establish your new residence, and how did you declare that?
What I did, sir, is I took a change of address, which I knew would be in question. And so I made some proper steps to ensure that if this question came up, that I would be legal. And I physically occupied the residence at 5341 Bloomfield Road, apartment K. And I want to show and share documents to show that those steps that I actually made.
Okay, I'm going to first show you what I have marked as T1 and get you to identify that for the record, and I'm going to give everybody a copy of it as well.
This is a rental deposit that I made on June 7th. I actually, made a deposit to move into residence on June 7th.
And where is that apartment located?
5341 Bloomfield Road, apartment K. And this was well before the Board of Elections opened up qualifying, and that anyone knew the Board of Elections was gonna open up qualifying. I was in the district and preparing to move as of June 7th.
And then look at what's been marked as what I marked as T2, and tell me what that is.
T2, this is an actual lease agreement that I signed on June 20th. The residence manager was not available until June 20th. So I actually signed the lease on June 20th, and I took permanent residence at 5341 Bloomfield Road.
And have you paid the rent there, and as well as the security deposit?
Yes, sir, I paid the rent there.
And I'm going to show you now what is marked as T3. You can tell what that is.
This is a Georgia Power bill at 5341 Bloomfield Road, apartment K. This is my actual power bill that I have received from Georgia Power.
And it's actually a current power bill.
It is a current power bill.
And it shows that you've been using electricity there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It does.
I'm going to show you what is marked as T4.
This is actually my vehicle registration that I also changed for my 2001 Pontiac that I had registered at the residence at 5341 Bloomfield Road, apartment K as well.
And I'm going to show you T5.
T5, this is also my voter ID card, which I came to the Board of Elections to actually change my voter registration card and ID where I could vote in District 9 at my permanent residence at 5341 Bloomfield Road as well. And so that also was changed. I took the necessary steps to be legal in the event this matter was raised.
I'm going to have you look at and identify T6 too.
T6 is the actual agreement by Georgia Power taking occupancy and asking them to turn on the power on June 13th at the residence at 5341 Bloomfield Road, apartment K.
And did they actually turn it on June 20th when you took occupancy?
They did. Yes, sir. They did. They came out and turned it on, and this is the actual bill where I went over as well. They have it turned on.
I've got some other items. I'm going to have you identify those. I'm not going to actually introduce you, but if you would just tell them what they are, and I'm going to pass them around as demonstrative evidence.
This is Stream Energy, which is the gas bill that I've recently had because you only need gas during the winter months to turn on the actual heating is what we use. This particular notice is what the Board of Elections sent me to that address as well at 5341 for a notice to be here. This is my actual bank, state bank, who sent me mail to my 5341 Bloomfield Road, apartment K, state bank. This is junk, well, some folks would call it junk mail from a furniture store company that also is listed my residence on as well.
And have you received communications from the Board of Elections?
Yes, sir, I did receive communication from the Board of Election at that same address as well, sir.
And you can pass it around, but we're not actually introduce that. I'm gonna have you identify these, which I have marked as P10, and they're 1 through 16, and just tell me what they represent and who took them, that type of thing.
These are photos that I had taken because one media outlet, I did let in the resident to view the property, and other media outlets had asked me to come in, and so for safety reasons, because I didn't want stuff broadcast all over the news and for someone to possibly break in the house, I took physical photos myself, and these are physical photos of the refrigerator with food and living conditions. It shows also in the cabinet, shows dishes that I have occupied, shows furniture in the apartment as well that I've taken pictures of. It shows that the apartment is in use, shows a full refrigerator of food. I didn't get this size for just snacking. And it shows my bedroom as well, that it has the furniture. It shows my closet, which my clothes are occupied as well. And that's what I'll be sharing with the board. Shows my entire room and setup, and everything is there. And my hats, actually my hat from the FBI Citizens Academy, because I'm a graduate as well. And so it shows all of that.
I'm gonna pass that around, but I'm gonna give it to the court reporter so she can put it as part of the record. Mr. Tillman, have you physically occupied the residence address located at 5341 Bloomfield Road, Apartment K, Macon, Bibb County, Georgia, as your permanent residence since June 20th, 2013?
Yes, sir, I have. I physically occupied the apartment, the resident. I sleep there, I park there, I eat there, I prepare food there. I am there at the residence.
Where did you consider your permanent residence to be at the time that you filed for the candidacy for the office that you're seeking in the pending election in District 9?
In District 9 at 5341 Bloomfield Road, Apartment K.
Now, one of the issues raised has been the homestead exemption filed with respect to the property located at 2572 Robin Hood Road, Macon, Bibb County, Georgia. What were the circumstances concerning that?
I went down to the tax assessor's office when this issue came up, and I actually pulled the homestead. And the only record that I was able to pull was in 1996, where my wife and I both signed the homestead exemption. What was interesting is the card that was missing was in 2008, which I signed a quick claim deed over to my wife. And the property was not supposed to be listed in my name as of 2008, which we have a copy from the tax assessor's office. But for whatever reason, the card is missing, and it's not showing up in the clerk's office. But lo and behold, we have a copy of it as well.
Okay, so the homestead exemption that was originally applied for was back in 1996,
Yes,
is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, since then, there have been transfers of title, which are record, all recorded deeds, where you had transferred the title back and forth. Then in 2008, the property was actually transferred by your wife back into both names.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
But the homestead exemption stayed on the property from 1997, I guess, until today.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that correct?
Yes, sir.
The homestead exemption was available to your wife because she was always on title. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And she actually signed the homestead exemption in 1997.
Yes, sir. And she continues to occupy the residence there, and so therefore in 2014, January 2014, she could still qualify for the home exemption. I cannot unless we both change our residence and we both file
And
for homestead.
can you file for a homestead exemption on your apartment?
No, sir, you cannot.
Okay. What was your intention as to claiming any homestead with respect to the property on Reynolds, Robin Hood Road?
Well, I understood that changing my physical residence on in June of 2013, that I no longer qualified for homestead exemption, so therefore.
So even though you had a legal interest in it, you
Yes,
wouldn't
sir.
have qualified, you
Yes, sir.
understood that?
Yes, sir.
And you're not claiming any homestead exemption for that property?
No, sir.
Okay. Why didn't you file something to show that you had abandoned your homestead?
Well, because my wife still qualifies for homestead because she occupies the residence there. And so therefore, she is the one that would still qualify for the homestead exemption.
And let me ask you, tell me your marital status as far as your wife is concerned. There's been some questions raised concerning that.
Well, you know, I always find it interesting that some folks call the Macon Telegraph sometime and tell a lie and so forth, and then they'll come in here and quote verbatim what the Telegraph said. I've been with